Alright, after Hyacine, here's my complete guide on Cipher. In this video, we first talk about her overall kit, followed by her Eidolons, then some build options, energy rotations, and finally Synergy. So leave a like if you find this video helpful, and please check the pinned comment for any extra notes or corrections. And with that, let's get started. So, Cipher. She's a 5-star quantum unit following the path of nihility. She has pretty good debuff application and personal damage, but her main focus of her kit is her ultimate with its massive true damage hit. Looking at her base stats, pretty low HP, but attack and defense are on the higher end. Her speed is 106 with a 130 energy cost ultimate. Starting with her traces, her basic attack is a single target hit dealing quantum damage, the same old thing. Her skill is a blast attack that applies weaken to 3 targets, which decreases their damage, and then increases Cipher's attack for 2 turns, and after that deals blast damage to those 3 targets. The weaken debuff itself might not be as useful, but having a debuff application is great for units like Acheron and Dr. Ratio. Next is the talent. When there are no enemies in the patron state, Cipher will automatically make the highest HP target become the patron. Also, when using her skill or ultimate, the main target will become the patron. This state can only be active on a single target at a time. Now, after any ally attack this patron, Cipher will launch a single target follow-up attack on the patron. This can happen once per turn. And now for the main part. Cipher will record 12% of any non-true damage that allies deal to the patron, but the overflow damage will not be recorded, and this recorded value will be cleared after using her ultimate. Speaking of which, her ultimate is a combination of her personal damage and the recorded damage, but overall it deals blast quantum damage to 3 targets based on an attack. Then it deals the recorded damage to those 3 targets as true damage. Hence, after using her ultimate, the recorded value gets cleared. For her technique, it increases her movement speed and make her undetectable for the enemies. Kinda like Zila. In Divergent or Simulated Universe, when you approach an enemy, there is a chance of getting a random consumable, but there's a limit of 50 times for a day. When entering battle, deals quantum damage to all enemies, and for this instance of damage, the recorded damage is increased by 200%. For trace level up priority, based on the damage output of her abilities, I recommend leveling up her talent and ultimate first, as both contribute the most, then her skill, and lastly her basic attack. On to her passives. Cipher's first passive increases her crit rate and the recorded value based on how much speed she has. The max is 170 and she gets 50% crit rate and 100% increase in her recorded value, and that's going to be our goal. Her second passive lets her record 8% of non-true damage dealt to other targets than the patron, so AoE damage is great for this and lets her record more damage. Lastly, her third passive increases her crit damage for her follow-up attack by 100%, which is nice, as you will soon know how stat-hungry Cipher can be. Also, when Cipher is present on the field, all enemies take 40% more damage. Now, this effect does not need to be applied. This damage taken state simply gets activated when Cipher is present on the field. For her bonus stats, after maxing out her traces, Cipher gets 14 speed, which is really helpful for that 170 speed goal, 14.4% quantum damage, and 10% effect hit rate, which is also really helpful as her skill's debuff does not have a guaranteed application. That means you would still need to build some effect hit rate on her. I'll discuss this in her build section. On to her Eidolons. Now, before I start explaining, few things I need to specify first. Cipher's personal damage output is pretty low, and the main part of her kit, the ultimate, deals the most damage, and that's because the true damage from that attack is based on the amount of damage the whole team deals. So if your team deals more damage, then Cipher's ultimate will deal more damage as well. So for any damage calculation you see after this point, it's heavily based on the units that I have used with her in my calculations, which are going to be Anaxa and Tribi. Alright, starting with her E1, it makes her true damage hit from her ultimate deals 150% of its original damage, which is a pretty massive damage increase. And more so, it increases her attack by 80% for 2 turns after she uses her follow-up attack. And since Cipher can use her follow-up attack every turn, she gets a permanent 80% attack increase. With this, her personal damage does get better, but her true damage hit gets a major buff. Her E2 gives her a 120% chance to make the enemy take 30% more damage. With the 40% in her passive, it's 70%, and if you have Tribi, it becomes 100%. But since this is a chance, you will need effect hit rate for it to land. Her E4 is kinda okay, it makes her deals additional damage when allies hit the patron target. It's alright, I guess. Lastly, her E6, it increases her follow-up attack damage by 350%, and now she will record 16% more damage from this follow-up attack. so more damage for her ultimate. Also, after using her ultimate and dealing the massive true damage hit, she will recover 20% of that recorded damage. So basically, the damage will increase indefinitely, and for longer fights like in Divergent Universe, we'll be seeing some massive numbers from players. Overall, her E1 is definitely a great Eidolon. It not only increases the recorded damage, but also increases her own personal damage. If you want to go a bit further, her E2 is also great, as it affects her team's damage. And as I said earlier, that Cypher's ultimate damage is based on the whole team. So the more damage they deal, the more damage Cypher's ultimate will do. After that, I don't recommend going any further. Her E4 is not worth it, and her E6 is kinda crazy, but if you are planning to go that high, you don't really need my advice. By the way, if you're enjoying the content, please consider subscribing, as it does help this channel grow and motivates me to make more content for you guys. Now let's start with her builds. First, her Lightcone, and they should be easy because there are only two options that are worth using on her at E0. First is her signature. This provides a massive 18% speed increase, and it makes it super easy to reach that 170 speed goal. Not only that, it provides her more debuffs, which decreases enemy defense, perfect for any team, and this has the same effect chance as her skill, 120%. So you will need around 40% effect hit rate to consistently apply it. Now if you don't have her signature, then just use the Resolution Shines Lightcone. This is the best and the only option that I'll recommend using on Cipher. At S5, it provides the same 16% defense down as her signature. Now because this debuff only has a 100% base chance, it requires you to have around 67% effect hit rate. And with the extra speed increase gone, it will require you to lower your crit stats in order to reach the speed and effect hit rate goal. I recommend lowering her crit damage, as she gets more of it from her passives. But mostly it doesn't really matter. As I've said earlier, her personal damage is pretty low, so even if you lose some of her personal damage, it won't matter that much as you are increasing the team's damage. You can see the difference in the damage chart. The S5 Resolution Shines Lightcone is basically her second best at E0. I have tested other 5-star and 4-star options, but I don't recommend them. They can be useful if you have a few Eidolons on Cipher, as those will increase her personal damage, but overall, just use her signature or the Resolution Shines Lightcone. As for what to get between her signature or her E1, I'd say if you can build proper speed and effect hit rate with an S5 Resolution Shines Lightcone, then her E1 is definitely more worth it than her signature. It's more so for ease of build, and if you can farm good relics, you really don't need this Lightcone. On to her best relics. First, the 4-piece set, and there are two ways to build her based on if you have her signature Lightcone or not. If you do have her signature Lightcone, then either the Pioneer set or the Genius set are fine. The Pioneer set increases damage against debuff targets, which is perfect for Cipher, but most of all, this set provides a lot of crit stats, and that is pretty hard to build on Cipher, given how many stats she needs with effect hit rate and speed. So for most players, this will be the better option. As for if you don't have her signature Lightcone, then you lose the 18% speed, and for that, there is nothing better than a 2-piece combo of the Messenger set and the Sappheiros set. Both combined provide 12% speed, which is still lower than the 18% speed that her signature Lightcone provides, but is still really helpful for that 170 speed goal. Now in terms of damage, the Pioneer set will be better, but if you don't have her signature and you use the Pioneer set, you have to get around 25 speed just from substats. If you have those kind of pieces, then sure, go for it. But as I said, her personal damage is not that high to begin with, so a slight damage loss won't matter if it helps with her speed goal. Lastly, for those who are wondering about the Eagle set, I don't recommend it. Even though you can use her ultimate more frequently, it is not optimal to do so. It's better to hold her ultimate until the right time. I'll explain this more in the rotation section. As for the 2-piece, you can pretty much use any set of your choice, as long as it helps with the team's damage. And for that, the best is going to be the Lushaka set. The 5% energy regen is okay, but this set can increase the damage for the main DPS, so it's perfect for her. You can also use other options like the Penacony set, or the Ageless set can also work. You can even use the Von Vex set for an early first turn, but given her speed, she will be taking the first turn anyways, so just pick one of the other sets I mentioned. For stats, here are two builds. One is with the signature Lightcone and another with the Resolution Shines Lightcone. As for why there are two builds, well, that's because there are a lot of changes if you don't have a signature Lightcone. I've already explained which relics to use if you don't have a signature Lightcone. So let's move on to the pieces. For body, use either crit or effect hit rate based on your stats. Always use speed on the boots, quantum damage on the sphere, and attack on the rope. Now for the same reason as to why I don't recommend the Eagle set, I also don't recommend ERR on the rope. As I said, it's better to hold on to her ultimate until the right time. For stat goals, here as well, it depends on her Lightcone. If you have her signature, then all of her debuffs have a 120% base chance. So you'll need around 40% effect hit rate in order to land those debuffs. For the speed, 170 is the goal for her passive, but if you can, go for 172, as that will give you 6 turns in 3 cycles instead of just 5. After that, focus the rest on crit. Now if you're using the Resolution Shines Lightcone, then that has only 100% base chance at S5, and for that, you will need around 67% effect hit rate, and that's why I've used an effect hit rate body piece on that build. Try to reach the same 170 or 172 speed, and focus the rest on crit. Cipher is definitely one of the most stat hungry unit in HSR. As a result, there are a lot of nuances to her build, but I hope this helped you guys understand her 2 builds. Now for her energy rotations, or I guess more precisely her playstyle. For the current builds, you can get her ultimate every 3 to 4 turns, but as I said, you don't always want to do that. Cipher's personal damage is on the lower end, especially if you don't have insane crit stats, which you most likely will not have, especially with the Resolution Shines Lightcone, because you have to focus on speed and effect hit rate. And for her ultimate damage, that depends on how much damage her allies are dealing. The more damage they deal, the more it records, and there is no limit to it. You can keep on recording damage, and that's what I recommend doing. Instead of constantly using her ultimate with low damage on enemies with resistances, hold on to her ultimate, record as much damage as you can, and then unleash it at the right time. And by that I mean when the enemy is weakness broken, or when they have low resistances, or are debuffed, or in a phase where they take more damage, like in Epoch Shadow, or in situations where you can one-shot the first wave, like in MOC, and much more. Since Cipher will keep on recording damage, you won't really lose any damage with this method. In fact, this is the most optimal way to use her ultimate. That's also the reason why I don't recommend using the Eagle set or an ERR rope. But the one place where you would benefit from an ERR rope and frequent ultimates is Pure Fiction. In that mode, being able to do AoE damage consistently is more important than big damage numbers, as the early enemy waves in Pure Fiction don't have that much HP. Beside Pure Fiction though, I'd recommend holding on to her ultimate for the right time. Finally, her synergies, and let's start with the 2 biggest topics: how good she is with Acheron and how good she is with Feixiao. Starting off with Acheron, and well, it depends. Your Acheron may be in 2 scenarios. Either you have E0 Acheron or you have E2 Acheron, and for both scenarios, you may or may not have Jiao Shou. For an E0 Acheron, the biggest support one can provide her is a consistent application of debuffs, and in that regard, Jiao Shou is still better than Cipher. And as I have explained countless times, how her damage is based on her teammates, if your Acheron is not getting her ultimate more often, then Cipher's damage will become lower as well. Both of their damage amplifications are great with damage taken debuffs, but for an E0 Acheron, Jiao Shou is still her top priority. But what if you just get both of them? Right now, for an E0 Acheron, the best team is going to be with both Jiao Shou and Cipher. You get both consistent debuff application, which makes Acheron ult more frequently, and that will fuel Cipher's ultimate damage. Now if you don't have Jiao Shou, then for now, I'd still recommend going for Cipher if you really want to make your E0 Acheron better. But you have to use other nihility units like Pella, or if you have her, the new buff Silverwolf will be a great teammate for Cipher and Acheron. Now for the other scenario, if you have an E2 Acheron, then she neither needs the 2 nihility units, nor she needs Jiao Shou's debuff application, as she can generate her ultimate stacks much faster. She still benefits from Jiao Shou, but she is not as reliant on him as before. And here, Cipher becomes a better option for her. Her permanent 40% vulnerability, combined with more defense down with her signature Lightcone or the Pearl's Lightcone, where both are debuffs. And that amount of debuff will be enough for Acheron to be able to ult more consistently, and that will result in more damage from Cipher's ultimate. So TLDR, if you have E0 Acheron, then Jiao Shou is still better. If you can, use them both together. Or if you don't have Jiao Shou, then you can pull for Cipher and use any other nihility unit with her. As for an E2 Acheron, Cipher is better than Jiao Shou. On to the next topic, Feixiao. And once again, it depends. For Feixiao, we have 3 scenarios. First, you have an E0 Feixiao with Topaz and Numbi in your account. Secondly, you have an E0 Feixiao, but do not have Topaz and Numbi. And third, you have an E2 Feixiao. For the first scenario, both Topaz and Cipher are pretty close. On one side with Topaz, you get more follow-up attacks, resulting in more ultimate stacks for Feixiao, with the 50% damage taken for follow-up attacks. While with Cipher, you get less follow-up attacks, meaning less ultimate stacks, similar 40% damage taken, defense down with either her signature or Pearl's Lightcone, but a massive damage output from her ultimate. Through my calculations, Cipher is sometimes better than Topaz and sometimes not, especially if the battle lasts longer, as in that scenario, Topaz's faster ultimate stack generation will outdamage Cipher's ultimate. So overall, Cipher is definitely an upgrade for Feixiao, but is not as big as to justify pulling a new unit. For the second scenario, without a Topaz and Numbi, you are left with Moza and Hunt March 7 for a sub DPS role. And though both Moza and March have more frequent follow-up attacks than Cipher, in terms of damage amplification and damage output, Cipher is simply better. Lastly, for the third scenario, for an E2 Feixiao, and without going into pointless discussion, here Topaz is better for Feixiao, simply because her E2 benefits more from frequent follow-up attacks. You can still use Cipher here, but the clears won't be as fast as with Topaz. I also want to make it clear that Cipher is meant for the role of a sub DPS, so don't replace her with any harmony units like Robin or Tribi. You will not get good results from it. After these two units, for the rest is up to you to choose. I have explained how Cipher benefits more from AoE damage. So units that deal AoE damage like Anaxa or Genti or the Herta or any other AoDition unit will benefit from her, as well as supports like Tribi and sustain like Hyacinth are great for Cipher. Also, if you were to turn things around, for any DPS who benefits from debuffs or AoE damage would definitely want Cipher. Two units that come to mind are Dr. Ratio, if you still play him, and the upcoming Archer. I've talked about it in my last video, and I'll go more in depth about their synergy in future videos. But keep in mind that aside from Acheron and Feixiao, for the rest of the units, they do benefit from Cipher, but she is not their best in slot. Like Herta benefits from Cipher, but she still prefers Anaxa. Also, other units like Castris and Aglia would benefit from having Cipher, but RMC is still their best in slot. So even though she can be slot into most teams, if you already have a better unit in that place, then I don't recommend pulling for her for that team. Overall, Cipher is a pretty unique and fun character to have. She can be slotted into many teams, but has the best synergy with either Acheron or Feixiao. The one thing that I do hate about her is how stat hungry she can be, and for a new or casual player, it would be a pain to farm those PE stats. By the way, I'm still struggling with my Hyacinth build. And that's going to be it for my Cipher guide. Hopefully this video helped you guys with any questions you had regarding Cipher. If you still have any more doubts, share them in the comments or hop into one of my live streams, and I'll try my best to answer your questions. Like and sub if you enjoy my content. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.